Hello, this is Coach John. Welcome back to part two of our deep dive into stress. In part one, I got into a deep understanding of what is stress, where it comes from. And in part two, now I'm going to speak about various ways that we can work to reduce our stress. So if you're interested in just, shut up, don't tell me what it is, I don't care, just tell me how to get less stressed, this video is for you. So in the first part, I brought up how energy is the capacity to maintain order. And when we get stressed out, it's usually we don't have enough energy to make order out of the chaos of our lives or the chaos of stressors that are incoming into our system. So I'm going to share several energy alteration as well as energy building practices that we can use throughout our day and in our home in order to help us have a better relationship with stress, to look better, feel better, and operate better in our lives. All right, so first, with exercise, again, it's the most easy thing for everybody to understand. We work out, we spend a bunch of energy, we break down our muscles, we build muscles, that's awesome, but you can also work in. So instead of spending energy, you're generating energy. So muscles, ligaments, and bones are all piezoelectric materials, which means when we deform them, they create energy, they give off energy. And so when we're working in, we're moving slowly so that way the energy used to move our body in that way is lower than the energy that's created by the deformation of those structures of our body. And the way you know that this is happening is you have a parasympathetic response. So sympathetic is fight or flight, and parasympathetic is rest and digest. And a parasympathetic response, you're going to salivate more, your heart rate's going to slow down, your breath rate's going to slow down a little bit. And so when we're working in, we want to move slowly with our breath, slowing the breathing down. We're going to feel our heart rate drop, and we're going to keep the tongue on the roof of the mouth, and we're actually going to have an increase in salivation a lot of times. I often advise clients to try work in exercises when they're first learning how to do them on a full stomach directly after a meal, because if you're going too hard, your mouth is going to get dry, and it's not going to feel great on your tummy. You're going to feel like, oh man, I just ate a whole bunch. Like, why am I doing this exercise? It's because you're doing it too hard. And you'll actually feel really awesome doing these exercises because you'll have an increase in saliva, and you'll be helping the muscles of peristalsis deal with and digest your food. It's going to feel really, really awesome, and that's the best way to learn how to do work in exercises. Again, making sure that the tongue stays on the roof of the mouth and you don't have an elevation in heart rate or breath rate. You want to slow those down. As far as postural imbalance, like I said in part one, we have all these hoses in our body and they carry blood, lymph, and nerve flow. I consider those all like water of our body. And when we have a hose going out to the garden, if we put a kink in it, which would be a kink like this, or a kink like this, we're going to reduce blood flow to and from that area beyond the kink, from our heart to the kink. And so what I love to do is prescribe work in exercises, zone exercises from How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. I prescribe them based on a full assessment to balance the posture without using energy. So you're not only increasing your energy by doing work in exercises, but you're also balancing your posture. You're pumping your body and then opening up those hoses to allow more flow, to really circulate all the fluid in your body. And the combination of those two is so incredibly powerful. There's really nothing else you need to do to feel and look a heck of a lot better. But of course, you want to tie everything together in a holistic package, of course. So next up is breathing. Your breath rate is your foot on the gas pedal. There's really nothing that is more important to pay attention to in terms of your moment to moment perceived levels of stress. is how you're breathing, meaning your pattern, as well as how slowly or how quickly. So what I'll do is give clients a simple exercise. Set a timer, set a stopwatch on your phone and just breathe in for 5 seconds and then breathe out for 5 seconds. That's actually a normal physiological breath rate, but we are so stressed out nowadays, we have a lot of trouble maintaining that. And so by getting to that normal, parasympathetic breath rate, you're going to feel a lot better. And I will often coach clients to go further and get to a 10-second exhale and then 10-second inhale, and going beyond that and really just learning to enjoy slowing down the breath, the rise in carbon dioxide, and all the wonderful things that come along with that. But paying attention to your breathing in certain situations, for example, if you're in a meeting with your boss and you remember, hey, John told me to check in with my breathing when I'm in somewhat stressful situations, and you realize you're all packed down in your core and you're like, not, of course, huffing and puffing at your boss, but breathing very shallow, breathing very quickly, you can change the whole dynamic of the situation by just remembering to relax your belly and breathe deeply into the belly. Getting your breath right is so critical. There's so many different breathwork exercises, breath holding. I mean, just slowing down your breathing is a great place to start. You don't have to do anything crazy or feel these wild sensations that come from extreme hypoxia or hypercapnia or anything like that. Just slow down your breathing to start with, and then get into the more advanced breathing techniques that are really quite a lot of fun. So then on the electromagnetic side of things, daily sunlight exposure, daylight exposure, early in the morning seems to be what's best for setting the circadian rhythm. That's going to affect how you sleep. That's going to affect your hormonal balance throughout the day. And then also limiting late night screen and bright light exposures. So getting early sunlight and daylight is going to set your clock. And then when you are on a screen late at night or you have very bright lights in the house, that's extending what your body thinks the day is and putting off the production of melatonin. So by turning off the screen by, let's say, 7 p.m., you're going to allow your body to start winding down and producing melatonin, and then actually getting into a deep state of sleep early on in the night and getting your full, 8 hours of restful sleep, or 9 hours or 10 hours or 7 hours, however much you really need to look, feel, and operate your best. That is determined largely by the chemicals that are floating around in your body, which is set by your circadian rhythm. Sunshine is also probably one of the most important forms of nutrition. We're not meant to be inside all day, and so getting sunlight on our skin, in our eyes, is so helpful for all energy systems, all bodily systems. There's just a mountain of evidence about this, and you really can go quite deep, but you don't need to. All you need to know is get outside, have your lunch outside. If you're stuck in the office all day, take your 30 minutes, go sit on a bench, pop your shirt off if you want to, and just charge up the solar panels. I'm not saying sit out there for 5 hours and get burnt and crusty, but just getting some exposure every single day is going to really help balance your body, bring in a lot of energy. So next up, with Wi-Fi and transformers, there's really, I wouldn't say there's too much positive that you can do with either one of those things, but I'm less talking about the transformers outside on your power lines, although those can play a factor in some extreme cases, people that are extremely sensitive to EMF. Those people are a little bit more on the rare side, but for your average person, utilizing things that harmonize the electromagnetic radiation coming off of these devices, whether it's your fridge and freezer, your washer and dryer, or your router, or your circuit breaker in your basement, You can use things like Aries Tech. They use microelectronic circuits to harmonize the electromagnetic field that is going in or coming out of a specific device. So I know they have stickers you can put on your phone to help reduce the harmful effects of the cell phone. They also have necklaces and possibly other jewelry that you can wear to reduce the harmful effects of things coming into your body. There's also biogeometry. Biogeometry basically uses the power of shape and the physics of quality to alter the more subtle aspects of electromagnetic radiation so that they are less detrimental to physiological systems. On biogeometry.com, they have quite a few articles about success stories. There's like a whole couple towns in Switzerland that like rant and rave about how amazing Dr. Karim is for implementing biogeometry in the town, saved a whole bunch of people from all sorts of illness. And that works on a more environmental level. There is, of course, specific device protection and personal protection. I wear their necklaces, but you can also utilize their home kit to place on various sources of extreme electromagnetic radiation, or even better, the dirty electricity. Those are the things with motors, your fridge, your freezers, washer and dryer, and then also your circuit board in your basement or wherever the circuit board is. And if you live in an apartment building, even better, you can have your specific room or rooms with the home kit really, really protected from, the 12 routers that are in your building or whatever. So looking into biogeometry or Aries Tech or something else like grounding mats, things like that can really, really go a long way on helping with the electromagnetic stressors that we're being exposed to more and more in higher doses, more frequently. I mean, Wi-Fi is pretty much chronic. Also, turn off your Wi-Fi when you're sleeping. Unplug your TVs, unplug as much as you can, because a lot of these TVs and computers now, they go into a sleep mode when they shut down. They just turn off the screen. They don't, the main circuit board doesn't actually turn off. Unplugging the Wi-Fi overnight, you're not sending text messages or watching Instagram overnight, hopefully, if you're looking to make positive changes in your life. So unplug as much as you can and, shut everything down overnight. That'll give you a break from the chronic exposure of Wi-Fi. And like I said, chronic low dose will lead to problems. Chronic high dose leads to problems even quicker. But chronic exposure, not allowing us to rest and recover from our stress, is what is most commonly problematic. The top health concerns in this country are almost all chronic diseases. So take a break from the Wi-Fi, shut it off overnight. Light therapies, I'm not going to get into these too much. There's a lot of stuff coming out about red light therapy, these big panels. They're pretty expensive, and if you've got the cheddar and you feel like standing in front of a red light for 10-20 minutes a day, I don't know how long, but a lot of people say that they feel more energized. It's really good for the mitochondria. I have seen great effects for stimulating the cranial nerves, specifically through the ear, using various frequency lasers to produce a positive effect on the nervous system. These things are available. They can be used as part of a holistic approach. And if that's something you're into, look into it. It can be used quite positively. On the mental emotional front, I could and probably will make a whole video about the stress of the mental emotional side of all these different kinds of stressors. But for this video, goal setting and how you have your relationship, how you experience your relationships are probably the most important. So when we have a why, we can bear any how. And so what is your why? What are the things that motivate you? What's your dream goal or objective? And I'm not saying it's got to be like, I want to stop world hunger or feed the poor. Like, it doesn't have to be something super altruistic. What gets you jazzed up? Is it the next new Ducati motorcycle you want to just go screaming down the highway on. And if that gets you jazzed up, then go for it. Something that inspires you, something that is positively pulling you forward in your life, is going to charge every system up with energy and is going to help you weather the storm of life, because that storm of life is non-negotiable. But when you have a dream goal or objective, when you have a why, the stressors are perceived as, hurdles and not brick walls that we run into. There's so much that goes into goal setting, but suffice to say for right now, find something that inspires you, find something that pulls you forward and you're positively looking forward to. Like, I can't wait for my 2-week vacation, so I'm gonna do the best job I can at work until then, and then I'm gonna drop it and I'm gonna just zen out for 2 weeks, whatever it is. With relationships, really this comes back to Dr. Happy. So we can create more stress around nutrition. We can create more stress around our physical stressors or chemical by mentally hyping it up for ourselves. So I brought up Dr. Larry Dossey's story about the pancreatic cancer patient in part 1. That same effect applies at a lower scale. So if you're convinced that the food you're about to consume is poisonous because, oh, my neighbor, he's growing his cucumbers with Miracle Grow and it's not organic, it's not awesome. If you hype that up in your mind, you're going to have a negative reaction to that cucumber. Whereas it was also grown with love, and you could focus on, like, man, my neighbor's super generous with his produce, and I love and appreciate that. That mental shift of not focusing on the stressor is going to change how you react to the cucumber, for example. So your mental attitude about the cucumber is going to set your body's tone for when you consume it. It can quite literally determine if you have an immune response to that food or not. Same goes for chemicals. If you're like, oh, my mom, she wears so much perfume, I'm gonna get a headache right away. I can't even walk into her house. Mom, open up all the windows. The chemicals, they're crazy. You're setting yourself up mentally before you even go into the situation, and you're focusing on the stressor, which weakens the body and brings you further down. And then the stressor, the legitimate stressor of the perfumes or air fresheners or their crappy new rugs, whatever it is, those are going to hit harder on your system rather than just, focusing on the positive side of things. And so back to Dr. Happy, focus on the positive aspects of what it is you're engaging with, and less on, there's this little tiny imperfection in what I'm going to be doing or eating. I eat wonderfully clean 98% of the time. But if my wife makes banana bread, damn it, you better believe I'm going to eat some. It's going to cause me some problems for sure. But I love banana bread, and that's going to keep me going for the next 29 days when I don't eat anything that's off my plan and keeps me looking and feeling my best. But I want some banana bread every so often, and that's soul food. That doesn't have the best effect on my body, but my soul loves banana bread. So yeah, I'm gonna have some. Same thing with the chemical and physical exposures. Focusing on the positive side of things. It's important to see your mom, regardless of if she's eating junk food and wearing perfumes. Seeing your mom is probably more important than one day of exposure to those harmful things. On the nutritional side of things, I break food down into 2 categories, structure and stressor. Basically, that is animals and plants. Plants have defense compounds because they cannot get up and run away from us when we go to harvest them. Animals can get up and run away from us when we go to harvest them. So they have less stressful chemicals, defense compounds. nutrient blockers, the list goes on of what plants have in them, and that is a stressor on the body, dealing with those phytates and lectins and the whole gamut of these nutrient blockers. Dealing with those is stressful. So if we're under a lot of stress in these other areas, like the most prominent example that I know of is Dr. Jordan Peterson and his daughter. He's a very public figure. He's under attack from all media sources, and he's flying around the world doing these intense speaking tours. Guy only eats meat and drinks water. He allows himself zero nutritional stress. Well, perhaps not zero. He allows himself very little nutritional stress because he's, possibly sensitive across the board to these other things. He's possibly sensitive to the defense compounds. He has a lot of autoimmune issues. His daughter does as well. And you may as well. So if you're having a lot of problems, then I've seen a lot of people go to a purely meat diet, but going to a purely meat diet shouldn't be your first step. First, get rid of the processed crap. Processed crap is going to be far and away way worse than a piece of organic broccoli or kale or carrots or tomatoes or eggplant or potatoes or whatever you're eating that could be stressing you out. I don't eat white potatoes. I blow up like a balloon. I feel terrible. I don't eat white potatoes, but I also don't eat any processed crap most of the time. So before I go to an all animal diet or an all plant diet, a lot of people experience positive results with veganism for a little while and they can make it work for themselves. First, getting rid of the processed crap, then playing with the structure stressor balance and finding your proportions on your plate of plants and animals will allow you to feel good, positively charged and energized and look your best after every single meal. Finally, there's so much coming out about the positive benefits of acute high dose thermal stress and improving our tolerance and our stress response across the board. I don't really want to get into all the research. I'm not going to. That would take up, there's hours and hours of podcast just talking about that. If you're interested, Susanna Soberg, she's a common person on the cold. Wim Hof, he's a wonderful person to go to for all the science and positives of the cold. Laird Hamilton talks about the sauna and the ice all the time. And so just know that these are available. So if you have an arthritis or any itis condition that's inflammation, you want to cool that down. But if you have an osis, tendinosis is very common. An osis is a cooling down, it's a hardening of the body. You don't want to cool that down anymore. Same thing with thyroid issues. If you're hyperthyroid, that's hyper, you want to cool down. But if you're hypothyroid, you want to heat up. You want to be careful of how you use thermal stress with your specific situation. It's not just across the board, yeah, everybody do sauna and ice. Like, you've got to be careful. If you are redlined on everything else and you have some serious disease showing up in your body, these can push you over the limit. But if you're not, if you're more of a, yellow light than a red light, these can have a wildly positive effect for you and make you more resilient and tolerant to every other type of stressor. So that's pretty much covering all of our bases as far as positive forms of stressors. Thanks for listening. I hope it helps. If you have any questions, leave me a comment, shoot me an email, reach out however you can. I'd love to talk. Thanks for watching.